Michelle made it.
Good evening. Today's date is January 4th. It is 6:31, the time and date set aside for the Northern Lebanon School Board Committee meeting. We are convening as a committee of the whole. I call this meeting to order. Director Marlowe, would you please lead us in a flag salute and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mrs. Martin. May we please have a roll call?
Yes. Fox.
Here.
England. Fowler.
Here.
Jazinski.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Marlowe.
Here.
Erdman.
Here.
Nom.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you. We'll move to the public comment portion. Anybody wishing to make a public comment was invited to give notice to the secretary by 4:00 p.m. today. Mrs. Martin, I understand there is no public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We'll move to the items for discussion. Item number 4, the consent calendar.
Yeah, and since we did not have a committee meeting, I just wanted to, for our new board members, review how this works. There are occasions where at the committee meeting, we do have voting items. We do not tonight. All of these items are what they call consent calendar items. If it is a typical thing that we would do, we go through them relatively quickly. And then when we get to the regular meeting, we will approve the consent calendar as it is, as a whole. If we get to something tonight that you have a question about, we can try to either discuss or answer that tonight, or we can move it to a discussion item for next week and gather more information if need be. So anything that's on here that you need more information about, we can always move. But then when we do get to the board meeting, we vote on the consent calendar as a whole. So tonight, you're not voting on anything. You're just looking at what will be on the consent calendar for next week. And then anything that comes up that you want to know more about, you feel free to ask, okay? The first 3 items are always on. It's approval of minutes from the prior meeting. It's approval of the student activity account and approval of the cash disbursements. That would be item 4.
Any discussion on item 4? Any questions?
Okay.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, budget and finance.
Item 5 is we use the Health E tool. That's one of our things for our nurses. And that is a 3-year contract. It's time to renew that for 2022, 2023. Can't say that. Also, our district depositories are in 5.2. Our custodial institutions, investment advisors, and so on and so forth are listed for approval as well.
Thank you, Dr. Messinger. Any discussion on item 5? Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move to.
Kate does.
Oh, I'm
Kate.
sorry.
Sorry. I'm not sure if this is the time or place to ask it, but I noted that in the health tools, it has the participating school list as all of the schools, and was wondering if that would change our price at all, that we'd be moving to just 3 schools instead of the 6.
That's a great question. Do you know? Is it by student? It's by enrollment. It's not by school. So they adjust it though based on enrollment prior to, right? Like if enrollment would go down, Leanne, do you know, or is it enrollment at the time of the agreement? Okay. It's based on current numbers, but if we have drastic enrollment, we can go back and ask for a change. And I assume there's a if 3 years gets us a discount. Yeah. Good question.
Yes, good question. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will move to item 6, which is buildings and grounds.
Yeah, that's just, if you recall with the elementary school, this is the same type of thing. There's a third-party testing and inspections that go on prior to work proceeding, and this is just the cost proposal for that.
Any discussion or questions? And again, these are documents that we have had since they were posted. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, extracurricular.
2 trips. There's an ag trip request to the FFA conference in Harrisburg. There's no cost for us. That's an overnight trip. And then Stefan Wentling's request for the U.S. history / government classes to travel to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, May 12th. And then 7.2 is a volunteer coach we have for wrestling.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. Item 8, curriculum.
The Spanish for Healthcare course, which was, or curriculum, I should say, was had the first reading in December, is now listed there for the second and final adoption. Excuse me. In addition to that, we have several policies for tentative adoption for you listed there. Remember, tentative meaning that if you look through these and you see something, we have the ability before we finally adopt at the next month's meeting to change those. And those are all there. And then we also have our letter of agreement with Eastern University for some student teacher services.
Any discussion or questions? And I would also reiterate, if you do have any questions regarding the policies, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm also on the committee that reviews those. Okay, hearing none. Item 9, human relations.
Okay, we have a couple of professional substitutes listed there. We also have some classified substitute, a classified substitute. We also have 2 of our positions filled. I believe we have a third that will be joining as well in those full-time positions, those district sub positions we had talked about last month. I think we'd still like to find one more elementary. I think we have a name, but are still working through that. There are 2 leave requests there as well. And then we have some hirings. We have 4 hirings for you. Then we have an instructional assistant at Jonestown, a personal care assistant at Fredericksburg, a new secondary library tech assistant for up here. And Mr. Russin, there's a familiar name who, if you're interested, was my art teacher, I think in about 9th or 10th grade, who looks great and has a ton of energy, but he's going to come and help cover the leave for Mrs. Guth. We do have a mentor for you to approve as well. And then I wanted to just make a special note. Mr. Rizzo is resigning. He is going to be superintendent at Williams Valley. We're happy for him. Certainly, as a leader, you want your administrators to seek and find and move on if they have those goals to do so. And we're happy and proud of him that he's going to take on that new challenge. I think he's crazy, but that's okay. And then 9.8, we do have some staff advancement for academic credits listed for you that have hit a various number of different columns for movement.
Great, thank you. Any questions, any discussion on these items? Hearing none, we will move to the information.
We have a LVC junior block semester, some students listed there for you. And then we also have a school counseling intern that will be joining us with Ms. Tavani starting on January 24th.
Great. Any questions? Discussion? Very efficient. Is there any new business for the good of the order?
I actually have and we didn't have a presentation spot ahead of time. So I asked Mr. Bruce, I had talked about getting him here. He's got a short presentation. He's not going to hold us too long, but he's got a short, everybody wants to go, Mr. Bruce. I'm sorry, I put you on the spot, but he's going to give us a little bit of update on V3. And that's something we've talked about. And he's been working hard to get to know the program. And I wanted him to give an update on where we are and to share a little bit about, I talked about the synchronous elementary instruction. He's going to let you see a little bit of that as well.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Messinger. I won't keep us here too long, guys, but I did want to give you guys an update and just show you some good things that we are doing in our virtual academy.
Do you guys want to move? You can slide up if you want.
It's the saddest sound in the universe.
If it's on presentation mode, Kirk, I recommend duplicating it and
This isn't going against my time, correct?
Deduct it from the next time you appear.
While they were working on that, can I ask a newbie question?
Certainly.
The academic credits, what does column movement mean?
per the CBA, there's different columns for, so if someone comes in with a bachelor's, they're in the bachelor's column for pay. The next column is actually a bachelor's plus 24 and then a master's. And then once you hit master's, you can go to master's plus 15, plus 30, plus 45, and then plus 60. And then a final column of a doctorate. So as teachers continue to take classes and professional development opportunities through colleges and earn credits that way, they have the ability to move columns, which increases their pay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So I just wanted to kind of go through and give you a general idea of where we're at as a program. And kind of if we have any questions at the end, we can touch on those as well. Our current numbers are as follows up there. Currently full-time numbers in elementary, we have 15 students. That goes across K to 6 grades for virtual instead of K to 5 like we are in person. At our middle school for 7th and 8th, we have 20 full-time students and 8 part-time students. And then at our high school secondary level, we have 45 full-time students with 28 part-time students taking courses with us through that. Where are we going? Where have we been, or where are we going with that? We kind of made a determination this summer to kind of make a connection to our in-person learning and our virtual learning. And so what we have done with our elementary is mirrored what you're seeing in person with our math and ELA instruction. So the programs that we're using are identical to what the kids are getting in person. So we're using Eureka for math. We're using the Hegarty, the Super Kids, the Wonders, and then the Pearson for 6th grade for our ELA. And then, so we didn't bite off as too much as that we can chew. We kind of stayed with accelerated education for social studies and science this year, just to kind of ease into it and take our time with that. Where are we going for next year? We need to continue to develop this content with ELA math and jump into social studies and science a little bit. And something else that I'm proposing is we consider creating some specials and electives to offer our elementary students as well. With our secondary students currently, We have our guys in two programs. They're in Schoology, which they would be in person, and Accelerate Education is where the bulk of our secondary instruction comes from. If you break down those numbers there, we have 15 courses that are in Schoology, and quick math there, 52 that are in Accelerate Education. One of the things that we're looking to do next year is to get rid of two programs and make it kind of make sense in only in one. And so what we're looking to do is move our Accelerate courses into Schoology, so that way students have one login and all of their courses are in one place rather than two different platforms kind of moving forward. The cost of those things are going to change a little bit for next year as well. And luckily actually go down for the majority of them. For our elementary, cost per course per semester is $59 this year. It's going to go down to $45 next year. And then at our secondary level, our full-time seats are going to stay the same at $279 per student per year, but the cost per semester goes from $59 all the way down to $39 per semester per course.
And I just want to chime in, Mr. Bruce, on the previous slide and on this slide, Mr. Bruce had met with some parents, just asking them questions about some of the challenges. And one of the challenges that consistently was brought up was the juggling of different platforms. And frankly, there were some things that became available throughout this year that allowed us to make a jump. We were going to force a jump. We were pursuing another company because they were compatible with Schoology, and Accelerate wound up doing it so that we would be able to continue to use them, not just for us, but for others as well. In addition to that, Mr. Bruce has had conversations with IU13, I think Penn Manor you talked to, and maybe even an additional one. And as he was looking at some prices, he went back to them and said, listen, you give IU13 this price, what can you do for us? Because we're currently paying more than that. And they were willing to come down. Did they match completely, or just?
They matched the one and they're really close to the other.
Okay. So we were able to get a break because he had those conversations and then contact them and negotiate a little bit. So I just wanted to point that out, that those were good steps that we took there, I think, for going into next year.
You kind of jumped ahead to the next one as well. So problems that we have faced this year is multiple platforms. That is probably one of the main concerns that I hear from parents and students as they're working through their online. They have three courses.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, they have three courses in one area of Accelerate, and they have two courses in Schoology. Or we even have kids that have 5 in 1, where they got to remember to go on that one and get that done. And it's confusing to some of them, and a hurdle that we really wanted to address kind of moving forward. Reputation is another one that I hear a lot of with talking to our community, and it goes back to, I think, COVID numbers of trying to keep their head afloat with a lot of kids going virtual just because that's what they feel comfortable with. And so that's something that we need to continue to look at and address kind of moving forward and help rebuild that reputation for that. The staffing one kind of goes along with the next two there of communication and time. Communication is something where, if you think about it, if all of our courses at our secondary level are being covered by Northern Lebanon teachers. So these teachers, though, have full schedules for the most part that they're looking at. So if a student is working on their assignments at home, they run into a problem, they reach out and email the teacher, they're not getting an immediate response from that teacher. Therefore, they have to kind of put their work aside and wait for that communication to come in. Most of our teachers are great in getting back to students within 24 hours. But if you think about it, that's still a day that you have to stop what you're doing, wait to get that answer, and kind of move on. So that communication is a hurdle that we're still trying to work on to try and overcome with that. The time goes along with that as well, of the full schedules that I talked about earlier at our secondary level. But at our elementary level, we have 2 full-time staff members that are teaching K to 6 grade levels. So the 2 full-time people have 3 grade levels each that they're going through, and synchronously teaching math and reading to those students. So they also are kind of at the end of the time that they have to be able to do the proper planning, make the connections that I'm going to show you guys a little bit more of later. And they're doing a fantastic job, but we're really at the end. And if we want to continue to grow the program, that's something that we're going to have to continue to look at and kind of brainstorm some ideas to go along with. And the last one there was electives that we talked about earlier. It's hard because if you're an elementary kid first and in person, you're taking your 4 major subjects, but you're also getting that music course. You're also getting that art course. You're also getting that gym course. You're also getting that library tech course. These are all things that we unfortunately cannot offer our students there. We can offer them those core courses. We do have our students taking a gym course right now virtually. We do have some art courses that we can offer, but it's not quite the same that they would get in person. And it's kind of an easy fix that we could look at and develop curriculum to help get that out there and kind of match that up as well as we possibly could. So the next one, why are people choosing charter schools kind of over our virtual option that we have here, right? Like that's really the big question. And the biggest thing that I find and the answers that I find with talking to parents that have made that switch are those 4 ones that are up there. So live instructions offered that we cannot offer at our secondary level, especially. They're getting a real teacher that is teaching that course live to them that we just don't offer here right now. The internet fees are often provided to them. So they submit their Xfinity, Verizon, whatever bill that is, and they get some reimbursement back for the internet that they're using for that school there. Reputation advertising, you turn TV on, right? You see CCA on there all the time. There's a reason that they can recruit well, that they can get their name out there and kind of go from there. And just the course offerings, that's what they do. So they have a lot more things that they can offer when it comes to courses that they can give their students and offer to the students that are kind of coming forward. But let's talk about CCA for a minute. So why people shouldn't be choosing CCA. So these are numbers that I got from US News and confirmed with niche.com, which both do a lot with school reporting. The graduation rates at CCA are 54%. Their proficiency reading is 41%, and their proficiency in math is 16%. Their student to teacher ratio is 25 students to 1 teacher. And the last one there, their first and second year teachers, 92.3% of the teachers at CCA are in their first or second year of teaching. So just compare those 2 numbers to what we have here at Northern Lebanon. But let's look at that last one just for a second, because I don't know that everybody understands what that actually means. If you think about this, right? If you are a teacher coming out of college and you get a job at a school, you're going to stay at that school if you like what they're doing and you are having a good experience there. If you don't like that, what are you going to do? You're going to go find somewhere else to work. So that number there being so high, what does that tell you behind the scenes? It tells you that there's not really good education there. So what do we do about that? We need to kind of look into how can we improve our program to bring some of those families back to Northern Lebanon. And that's something that we are kind of looking forward to and moving. In elementary, what have we done for that? We've started synchronous learning this year. K-6, they have the option right now of doing a synchronous component to their learning or the asynchronous that V3 has looked like in the past. Our teachers are currently developing lessons for ELA and math. So they have kind of a starting point for next year to improve those courses and kind of go from there. We're using current programs that we have to engage our students. That way that transition back to school is going to be a lot easier, or into a virtual program for whatever reason is going to be a lot easier than it had been in the past. And we're building relationships with our Northern Lebanon families. At our secondary level, what are we doing? Well, we've started this year and piloted taking a couple open spots in teacher schedules and putting a virtual course in there. So that way they're teaching virtually, but they're teaching it during the day where they can have that component and reach out to students during the day when most of them are doing their work. So we've started to look at that and see if that's something that we want to expand upon on the future. As a program, We've been revising student and staff handbooks. I've been in touch with a lot of different programs around the IU of just grabbing their handbooks and seeing what they do well and things that we do well and trying to combine them and make our program the best that we can. We're looking into updating our website with our information and kind of getting that out there and getting our name out there a little bit better as well. So what are some steps that we need to continue to do or begin to do in order to compete with schools like CCA and PA Cyber and those kinds of things? We need to continue to grow our synchronous program K to 12. We need to continue to build relationships with our families that are here. If we give them a virtual option, they're not going to go somewhere else. They're going to stay within our community and within our school. When we're established and we have a good product, we need to make sure that we're advertising and reaching out to our families that have left and are currently at our local cyber charters. We need to consider covering the cost or at least partial cost for the internet when a student is in V3. And last, we need to change our mindset and look at students aren't taking virtual courses because they're trying to get out of school. That's something that I hear so many times, and I see that. It's not that. It's a different kind of mindset than what we've had in the past. So we need to look at that and see how we can kind of change. But we are doing good things here. I want to end with that. This is a slide and just a couple things that I want to show you guys. These are all pretty short clips. The first two at the top there are just pictures of Mr. Horst is on the left. And this was back at Halloween where they kind of just had a dress up day for before they got started. The second one on the right there is Mrs. Reber with her 3 third graders right now. And she sent them kind of these silly glasses that they kind of put on and kind of did that. The clips below, Kirk, are we able to play those or? They are, yeah.
Excuse me.
So I can describe some of those got to you as we kind of look through this. So the ones in the middle there are just literally those teachers building relationships with their kids. So I walked in on Mr. Horse's class on the left there and
Kirk, duplicate it on that if you can. I'm seeing it on the live, but
it's still the first slide.
yeah, I can, but
So what you're hearing there is Mr. Horse just doing a warm-up activity with his kids, and he's pretending to do a rocket ship with his hands. And the kids at the top of the screen there are just so engaged. So think about that, though. They're sitting at home in front of a computer screen, but they're still have that relationship with their teacher that they feel comfortable in order to Yep.
Gonna start off the rocket ship. All right, he's planning now. I'm gonna go up to 1. 2. 3. I'm getting a little scared, so I'm gonna go back to 2. I'm gonna go back to 1. I'm gonna go back to 0. All those nerves. Ready? 1. 2. 3. 4.
And just the energy that they have, that both of our teachers have here, is just very contagious. You can go to the last one there, Kirk, in the middle, if you don't mind. In the middle right. Yeah, that one there. So Mrs. Reber has started a lunch bunch with her kids. And this is just kind of them over their lunch period. And
there we go.
So just the connection these guys have to each other. These guys have never been in a classroom together. And that just goes to show you how great of a job these teachers do of connecting with their students. And this is what we need more of in order to be successful within this. It's not all fun and games. At the bottom left there is Mr. Horst just doing a lesson in math there. This is just a couple second clip, but it'll kind of go through and show you how they're making those connections and how they're still kind of interacting with those students. So that's a kindergarten lesson there that they're just kind of going through and doing some basic addition, but he's able to kind of make that connection and kind of go through that with how he's doing. The last one is Zoe there in the middle. So Mrs. Reber we're going to skip that one, Kirk. You can go to the one on the end. So this is just an introduction, but every week the students pick a book and decide to read to their class. And she said at the beginning when they started this, the students were really nervous about their reading and reading out loud to their kind of classmates, but building relationships and doing something where they feel comfortable. Zoe kind of brought a book that has some pretty big words in it for second graders and is able to kind of go through that. And you can hear the confidence kind of in her voice as she kind of goes through that.
That was an look. It was all of those humongous words. I am so proud of you. I'm seeing all of that. Not only tell us that we're all different. That's the story ever that I ever heard in my life.
So I thought that's a good place to end. Thank you guys for giving me time tonight to kind of give you an update of where we're at. Thank you for allowing me to kind of move this program and the vision that I see this program going, and hopefully we'll continue to grow it and move in the right direction.
I'd just like to comment. Great update. I started writing questions as we started, and you answered, I think, almost all of those. I think this is a huge area for us. This has been, both on the, are we delivering a good education through this platform, and the competition of charter school, which we know has a financial impact on the district, on the taxpayers, and then it draws away from our ability to do here. So I think whether all your answers are the right answers or not, I don't know, but you guys are being intentional. I love that. And I think we should put charter schools out of business somehow. So.
Amen.
Yeah, I'd also say this is a great presentation. The competition with the cyber charter schools is really important. And based on that presentation, the thing I was thinking about was that synchronous instruction for the secondary school. We obviously learned a lot of lessons through that COVID period. Have we done anything to look at what teachers we have that might be especially competent at that synchronous learning, who might be willing to offer something like that as we look at the curriculum and tie it? I appreciate what you said too about tying the V3 to the curriculum that's happening here, because that's a huge draw for me. That gives you the opportunity to have a kid that wants to come back physically to seamlessly do that. But have we done an analysis of those lessons learned during the COVID period?
I mean, Justin wasn't here for the COVID period, but we definitely have some staff members who embrace this type of instruction, and can take their in-person class and really make it a very similar experience. And a lot of them are just because they're already integrating technology in their classroom, and true technology integration to take from a in-person setting to a virtual platform is not a huge stretch. And we have some that are really good at it. The problem is we don't have enough time slots in their schedules for them to do it. We had what 15
If that, it may be 10, it may be
10.
less than that. Yeah.
that we had teachers with an extra duty period that we were able to take away and add the virtual classes. Like, for instance, Mr. Wagner does a U.S. history, an 8th grade history course. It's the same one he teaches in his room, but he's there in his room during his, he kids can come on, he can work with them, he can track down the ones that aren't doing things. And that's critical. So, it really becomes a staffing issue. I think Director Marlowe said it a little while, a meeting or two ago. Sometimes you have to spend money to save money. So we have to look at that from a staffing standpoint and decide where to start and where we need to invest some money.
So is it a hurdle to have a V3 kid join a class that's in progress as we did last year?
It is.
It is.
Live streaming is a whole different ballgame because you're juggling two platforms. You're juggling your in-person, you're juggling your kids that are virtual. In addition to that, you're going to set up your virtual class a little bit differently. Yes, you can watch it, through a camera, but it's not the same experience as it would be.
With the rate changes, what is our cost per student under V3 going to be? Average?
Full time.
I would consider most of your students are going to be at that full-time price. So full-time, I believe it comes out to be, if they take 5 courses for the whole year, it's better to book them as a full-time student, which is $279 per student. Now that's, to be honest with you, only for that curriculum. If you factor in the staffing part of that, I don't honestly know what
Right,
that
that's what
answer would be there.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the comparison is. I mean, because we know what it costs to send
Right.
a student out.
Right.
And that's an investment. That's not an investment. That's just a savings.
Right.
So.
Yep. Well, thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you,
Really
guys.
appreciate the update.
Thank you.
That was it. I don't have any other new business.
Thank you. I think that concludes our committee meeting. It's good to see everybody as we start 2022. Looking forward to what's in store for this year. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. And I was checking our board policies, and it says that for our votes, we should do voice votes. So we're going to try this, and we're going to incorporate this perhaps going forward. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.